Has some dealings with a prostitute.
And welcome to our channel.
I'm Prams, and I'm here to tell you crazy stories from around the world.
And I'm Dan. I derail those stories and take them to places they shouldn't really go. If you're new here, why not give us a shot? I promise you have not heard the story like this before. So if you subscribe today, you get to watch free of charge. No lock-in contracts.
Dude, that's not how YouTube works. Okay, so I've got a wild story for you. During World War II, the Polish army had a secret weapon. His name was Wojtek. He carried artillery shells, caught a spy, drank beer, ate cigarettes, and retired in an Edinburgh zoo. He was a bear. A Syrian brown bear who, by the end of World War II, held the official military rank of corporal, had his own army paybook, his own serial number, and his own salary, paid entirely in beer and cigarettes. This is the story of Wojtek. And it starts, like any other, with someone doing something extremely stupid. Picture this, a group of soldiers trudging through the mountains of Iran in the middle of World War II, exhausted, far from home, and heading somewhere dangerous. These were Polish soldiers, part of what was called Anders' army, named after their commander, General Anders. And their story before they even found the bear is worth knowing. Poland had been invaded at the start of World War II, not just by Nazi Germany from the west, but simultaneously by the Soviet Union from the east. These men had been captured by Soviets, thrown into brutal prison camps known as gulags in Siberia, and held there for years in conditions that killed thousands of their countrymen. They were eventually released, not out of kindness, but because Britain pressured Stalin to free them so they could help fight the Nazis instead of the Soviets. So these were men who had already survived one war, one invasion, and one imprisonment, who had lost their homes, their families, their country, and now they were being marched through the Middle East to get to a battlefield in Italy, thousands of miles from home. And then, somewhere in the Iranian mountains, near the city of Hamadan, they came across a boy by the side of the road. The boy had a bear cub in a bag.
Wait, he had a bear in his bag?
He had a bear in his bag.
This is proof that kids in the 1940s had like way less supervision. You know, you're not even allowed to take peanuts to school. And he's got an apex predator in his bag. Wild.
Well, the cub's mother had been killed by hunters, so it seemed kind of fair. The boy had been looking after it, feeding it and keeping it warm. He offered to sell it to the army soldiers.
So wait, so this kid, this child, he's carrying a bear in his bag. Then he's negotiating with soldiers and selling the bear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a different world back then.
He's in the arms trade at a young age, I guess.
Yeah. Is he opening up like a bear dealership? You know, he's just like, which one would you like? Well, I'll sell one, I'll give you this other one half price. You know? Yeah, like the weighing it on scales as well, like pigs and cattle.
Buy new or buy used, secondhand bear.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out he made a deal. One of the soldiers handed some food, a penknife, and possibly a chocolate bar. Exact accounts vary, but the deal was done, and the Polish army now had a bear.
I'd love to have been there to have that conversation with the superior.
I'm more interested in the conversation the boy had with his family when he went back home, and they're like, "Where's the bear?" And he's like, "I sold it," really proudly, and they're like, "Oh, what did you get?" Well, he's like, "Well, I got this pen, and I got this chocolate, and I ate half of it, and the other half melted, but here's the empty wrapper." And they're like, "What?"
I know, but again, just imagine the scene. They have to report this, right? I imagine he's radiating this into his superiors. It's like, 2 casualties, low ammo, and we've acquired a bear. And they're like, can you repeat that last transmission? We've acquired a bear. And then there's a pause. Is it friendly? So far. Is it harmed? Emotionally, yes. Did you give it a beer? Yes. It's ready.
Well, with that, I guess he was ready to go. They named him Wojtek, a Polish nickname meaning happy warrior. He was tiny when they found him. They fed him condensed milk through a vodka bottle because that's what they had. They carried him around like a baby. And the soldiers? Men who hadn't seen their families in years, who'd been through things most people can only imagine, absolutely fell in love with him. He slept in their tents, he wrestled with them, he learned to salute. He learned to march on his hind legs. He learned to carry things after watching the soldiers do the same. Because bears, apparently, are natural mimics. He also discovered beer, which he loved immediately and without reservation. He would drink from a bottle, and when it was empty, according to one of the soldiers who watched this, he would hold it up and look through the opening, confused about where the rest had gone.
I don't think he's drinking for fun. I think he's drinking because he's seeing some shit, you know?
It's like Canadian Club, right? Their mascot is a little bear. Maybe that's where it came from. Well, it's a polar bear, but still.
I just think this bear is the OG cocaine bear, is where we're heading.
It's possible. We'll see where this story goes.
I can't wait for where this is going. It's already gotten a bit wild.
Well, it does get wilder. He discovered cigarettes too. He wouldn't smoke them exactly. He would accept a lit one, take a drag, and then eat it, which is not recommended behavior, but the soldiers absolutely loved it.
I imagine he's in the corner here, he's blowing hoops, you know? He's rolling the cigarettes, and he's got one tucked behind his ear. You know, he's got a tattoo on his shoulder, Mum.
Aww.
And then he goes out with his comrades, you know, they're obviously heading to a brothel, right? And when he's finished doing what he's doing, you know, a picture falls out onto the bed. It's a picture of his mum.
He has some dealings with a prostitute.
Wow. You know, this photo lands on the bed and this woman is like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Mama." She's like, "Do you miss her?" And he's like, "I miss who I was when she was alive."
I feel like this is the bear version of Bambi.
Maybe, yeah. Then he walks off and leaves a few coins, more than he needed to.
And I guess sometime after all these escapades, the men moved through to Egypt on their next task, and they took Wojtek with them. He rode in trucks, first in the front seat when he was a cub, and then in the back as he grew. And he grew a lot. By the time the war was done, he would weigh nearly 500 pounds and land over 6 feet tall. He was by any measure no longer a pet. He was one of the boys. And while the unit was stationed in Egypt, something happened that earned Wojtek a level of respect that went beyond novelty. One night, he wandered into the shower block. Apparently, he loved showers and had developed a habit of using them. When he went in for his daily shower that night, he found a stranger hiding inside who had no business being there. A local man had snuck into the camp to scout the locations of their weapons stockpile, presumably to pass on the information to local dissidents who wanted to raid it. He was not expecting to run into a 500-pound bear. Wojtek, startled and territorial, cornered him in the shower. The man surrendered immediately, which, given the circumstances, was absolutely the right call. And Polish soldiers arrived to find their bear had just caught a spy. Wojtek was rewarded with unlimited shower privileges and 2 extra bottles of beer for his military win.
I love this. I can just imagine, you know, Wojtek the Bear, he's got a towel around his waist, you know. He's moving out, you know, he's walking over to the shower. You know, the mum tattoo is just shining in the moonlight. Yeah, he walks into the shower and he spots them. And he takes his cigarette from behind his ear, you know. He sniffs it like a cigar, puts it in his mouth and sparks it and says, "You lost there, boy?" He takes a puff of the cigarette and he says, "Mama always told me, you can always tell when a man is lost." And he just gives up straight away. Soldiers come in and walk him off and he just has his shower. That's just how good he is, his bear.
So, in 1944, the unit eventually got their directions. They were being shipped to Italy to join the Allied campaign, specifically to help break a brutal German defensive line that had been holding for months in the area. There was just one problem. British military regulations strictly prohibited animals on troop transport ships. Pets and mascots were banned, no exceptions. The Polish soldiers looked at this rule. They looked at the bear. They looked at each other. And they did what any group of reasonable soldiers would do in this situation. They enrolled Wojtek in the army. Wojtek was officially drafted into the Polish army as a private soldier. He was given the rank of private, a serial number, and a paybook. He was listed on the regimental roster alongside his men. The British, faced with the paperwork of an officially enlisted bear, looked at it for a moment and just accepted it. Private Wojtek boarded the ship to Italy, paid in lieu of wages in double rations.
Look, in my mind, I imagine this going down very differently to how you just described it, because that was a little bit boring. I've got a different way that I thought that this went down.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The British sergeant is like, but he's a bear. And the corporal's like, he's not just a bear, he's a goddamn soldier, and he's the best goddamn soldier we have. We need him on the front lines. It's like, and by God, if he doesn't get on that boat, neither do I. And then another soldier stands up. And I. Me too. Me too. Like one by one, they're like, me too. And then what surprises everybody is the corporal on the British side steps forward. Me too. He doesn't fear death. He's already survived it. And then they just agree that he's going on the boat because no one else will go on the boat.
And they're like listing his credentials and they're like, he's got grizzly talent. He's really good at tailgating, you know? So there we have it. Wojtek, part of the official army, as they headed to Monte Cassino. Monte Cassino was one of the worst battles of the entire Italian campaign in World War II. The Germans had turned a hilltop monastery in central Italy into one of the most impenetrable fortresses. The Allies had been trying to break through it for 4 months. 3 separate assaults had failed. The terrain was rocky, exposed, and brutal, and vehicles couldn't get through most of it, which meant supplies and ammunition had to be physically carried on foot, under fire, and by hand. The 22nd Artillery Supply Company, Wojtek's unit, was tasked with getting ammunition to the guns, which meant carrying 100-pound crates of military shells up mountain paths while being shot at. Wojtek watched the men doing this, and then he walked up to one of the ammunition trucks, stood up on his hind legs, held out his paws, and waited. The soldiers loaded a crate onto him, normally a 4-man lift. Wojtek carried it on his own, stacked it, and came back for another. He did this for days, never dropped a single crate. Never needed to be told twice, just watched what the men were doing and did the same thing. And the Allies eventually broke through. Monte Cassino fell to the Polish Corps on the 18th of May, 1944. And with that, Wojtek was promoted to corporal. The 22nd Artillery Supply Company officially changed their unit emblem to a silhouette of a bear carrying an artillery shell. And it remains their emblem to this day. When the war ended, the Polish soldiers faced a future that nobody had planned for. Poland, the country that they'd been fighting for, was now under Soviet control. Going home meant walking back into the hands of the same regime that had put them in the gulags in the first place. They scattered across the world, Britain, Canada, Australia, and built new lives in countries that weren't theirs. But Wojtek couldn't go with them. There was a political debate about what to do with him. Some wanted to send him to Poland, but soldiers refused. They knew the Soviet-backed government there would turn him into propaganda, a symbol of something that he had nothing to do with. And they would not let that happen. Instead, in 1947, Wojtek was taken to Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland, where the 22nd Company had been stationed after the war. It was the closest thing to home they could give him. Former soldiers came to visit him regularly for the rest of his life. They'd lean over the enclosure and talk to him in Polish, and he'd perk up, recognizing the voices, the language, and the familiar faces. They'd throw him cigarettes, and he'd eat them, because there was no one there to light them anymore.
Just, here, Bear, here's a cig. Hey, little Tommy, do you want a cig as well? Let me get that for you. Crazy. It's wild that they're doing that. And they're allowed. Or are they allowed? Probably then. They can do whatever they want, right? So he's retired, right? That's where we are in the story. Okay. He's still drinking quite heavily. Not for fun, but just to quiet the quietness.
It's probably got PTSD, man.
That's what I'm thinking. I was like, you know, visitors are walking past him. He's just staring into space. He's having flashbacks of the war. He's replaying those same scenes over and over again. You know, he still probably sleeps with a gun under his pillow. He survived the war, and now he needs to survive the peace. You know, and he's always got a cigarette, you know, behind his ear.
And it was with that cigarette behind his ear that Wojtek died in Edinburgh Zoo.
Wow, that's dark. Wow. Did he die of lung cancer? Is that how he died? Wow. Yeah, that really caught up to him, that drinking and smoking.
And that was on December 2nd, 1963. He was 21 years old and weighed nearly 500 pounds. He had outlived the war, outlived his unit, and outlived most of the men who'd found him in a bag in the Iranian mountains 2 decades earlier. There are statues of him now, in Edinburgh, in London, in Poland, in Italy at the foot of Monte Cassino. His name is on streets in Poland. The 22nd Company still carries his image on their emblem. Wojtek the Happy Warrior, corporal, spy catcher, shell carrier, Edinburgh resident. The best soldier in the Polish army who never fired a shot.
I don't want it to end like that, to be honest. That's not how the story ends. Okay, I've got my own version of the story. Okay. Say years pass. You know, he's retired. It's quiet and there's a familiar sound in the distance. It's a chopper. This helicopter lands in the zoo. Sergeant gets out. Corporal, Sergeant, your old unit, there was a mission. I can't tell you much right now, but it went south. We need you. Your old unit, they need you. He looks over at his family. Find somebody else.
Oh, he learned his lesson. Oh.
Well, you're the best soldier. We need you. Civilians need you. Your family need you. You need to fight for their freedom. But anyway, they then leave. And after a while of mulling it over, he calls them and he's like, ready the chopper. I'll finish what they started. It goes into another mission.
I mean, it's good to hook for a story, like a sequel to our YouTube.
That's all I've got.
To be honest, when
Part 2. Cocaine Bear.
When you first said there was a chopper that came in, I thought it was going to have his mum there and they were going to be reunited. And that would have also been a happy ending.
No, she's dead. And we need this death to drive him forward.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that remains. Okay.
Yeah, that remains. Okay. Because he's already got this tattoo now. I'll get rid of it. You know, R.I.P. Mum.
Stay tuned for part 2.
I'll add a D. Drip Mum.
Just kidding. There's no part 2.
There's no part. Cocaine Bear. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
That's part 2 of this.
Feel free to watch Cocaine Bear. Pretty sure that's part 2.
Yeah, part 2 of the story.
So, is there a moral of the story here?
War turns men into animals. And sometimes animals into men.